Hey, what's going on, guys? VT here, and I am hosting episode 2 of the podcast Volganos Translations. And if you have a better name for that goes with VT, let me know, because that's kind of shitty. Today, I'm going to be covering my first pretty much weekend with Monster Hunter, as well as the new 3DS XL. I got that, play with it around a little bit, we'll be talking about that. And we're just going to go into sort of the core mechanics of the thing, what you should expect with the game, and what you should start doing when you just start it off, alright? So to help me with that is one of my good friends. He's been with me through a lot, way too many hours in Destiny, and a bunch of other recommended games. Been friends for a long time, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm ngrib2012. Ngrim_2012, 2012, whatever. It depends. Goes back and forth depending on one of the problems with the new 3DS XL, actually, which we'll get into later. But yeah, thanks for having me, VT.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we played a little bit of Monster Hunter together already, so you kind of have a little bit of an idea. But for those of you who don't know, Nate, how many hours have you put in Monster Hunter before you got your 3DS XL?
0. I am brand new to the series.
Monster Hunter Virgin, MHV. Phenomenal. But we won't get into that right away. We want to talk about the new 3DS XL first. So, looking at this thing, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, like, it looks pretty, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really good-looking console.
Yeah, we both got the Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate Limited Edition. So they have the really nice, faceplates, and the faceplates aren't a sticker. They're nice brushed metal. It's an actual piece of the system, which is just great. It kind of clicks into different angles there. And one of the things I've noticed with that clicking, though, is that it makes the screen a little loose. Mm-hmm. Like, I can wobble it left and right a little bit and a little back and forth, so it's not as rigid as I originally thought it was.
Yeah, and my big problem is I think it did something similar on the DS Lite, which I had one of those. And of course, it's not sitting in front of me right now, so I can't check. But there's really only 2 usable stopping points for that screen. There's a tilted and then a straight up and down vertical, or in line with the rest of the console. And on the DS Lite, there was a secondary one, so if you were sitting at a desk, you could put it down. And if not necessarily you do this with Monster Hunter, because there's a lot more activity in Monster Hunter, but playing Pokemon, for example, where you've got your battle commands on the secondary screen, it's very turn-based. You don't really have to be looking at it and have both hands on it all the time. You could sit at it and kind of use it like a laptop. Yeah. And that first click for the screen leaves it at a weird angle if you're sitting down and have it sitting on something.
Yeah, it's back a little ways, maybe trying to think you're sitting upright. But most of us don't have that good a posture, to be completely honest.
That's true. I'm sitting here slouching, and it actually looks fine. So I guess it's,
That's probably what it is. Lazy Americans, they designed it for us.
Don't get me started on that. That's why we're lazy dumb Americans, according to Nintendo, and that's why we're not getting the regular new 3DS.
Yeah, I loved what they did that. They said, what did they say? They said something along the lines of, we didn't want it to confuse people or something like that.
We didn't want to confuse our marketing message. So
they wanted a clear definition of what the system was. Well, I'll tell you what, Nintendo. You go the fuck to Amazon, you type in new Nintendo 3DS XL, and you tell me what the fuck pops up, because I can damn near guarantee you it's not going to be what I bought. It's going to be a new 3DS XL, not the new 3DS XL. That's not clear, and it pisses me off.
Well,
yeah,
they're going after Apple with that really ambiguous naming scheme.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Them and Capcom their heads are up their asses.
Yep,
it's ridiculous. Amen. But also, we noticed something when we were playing with this new 3DS XL, that our hands were cramping up quite a bit, or our thumbs in particular, and that's mostly due to the thinness of it. It's folded up. It's a pretty nice size console. It's a decent size, not too large, not too small. Actually, a little smaller than I thought, but right around there. But when you flip it open, it cuts the size in half, and I found that I have to really push my thumbs down in order to play it, how it accurately, well. Mm-hmm. And that's a big problem.
Yeah, for me, it's there's a it's almost like I have to. My thumbs aren't positioned high enough because it's so thin. that I don't have good range of movement. So I'm sitting there with flat thumbs trying to do all these complex things with Monster Hunter to hit combos and use the C stick if I need to move the screen around, and it's really painful.
Yeah, it's for long periods of play. I had like almost a frickin' Charlie horse in both of my thumbs on what was it, Friday night when I was playing for so long. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I was getting this weird like gaming claw, which I haven't seen since like the mid 2000s when I was playing this weird game on the PC that would require you to use like tab, option, alt, and like all these buttons on the left hand side of your keyboard, so your hand would just kind of curl in on itself, and it was really painful. Kind of disappointed with that.
Yeah, it's a mess. Other than that, though, I mean, the buttons seem to work well. The C stick actually has decent resistance, which is kind of nice. Although the size of the C stick to the buttons really doesn't. They're too similar to me, so I always kind of get messed up there. But that'll probably come with getting used to it more. The analog to me, I feel, could be a little grippier. Do you feel that as well?
Absolutely. I picked up my PS4 controller after probably 8 hours of playing Monster Hunter Friday night, and picked up the PS4 controller, and it's not a new controller. It's one of my Destiny controllers, so it's got several hundred hours of being worn down, and it was still grippier with the analog stick than the analog stick is on the.
Yeah, I slide all over the place with this thing. If they have extra nubs or something that you can attach there, I'm probably going to pick one up. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. They also have the shoulder buttons on the back. What are they called? They're like LR and RZ and LZ. Yeah, and they're kind of hard to reach when you're playing because it's such a straight angle that they're hard to hit. But depending on the game, I think that is really the only thing that matters there. With Monster Hunter, you don't need to use them a whole lot, so it's not a huge deal.
Well, you don't have to use them, but in the way that we have our stuff configured, we're using them quite a bit. And
for the camera, yeah.
For the camera, and it can get to be a pain in the ass trying to rotate the camera that way while also running or
charging a hammer
locking onto
or
something or
figuring out an item or something. Yeah, it can be a pain for sure. I don't know. It's overall the system is it's a little disappointing. Especially with the screen quality and everything. That's my biggest deal with it is the pixel ratio is just god awful. Like
it's
for this generation, it's stupid.
Well, and then you get into the 3D, and I don't know exactly what we were expecting with 3D. This is my first time really hands-on playing a 3DS.
Same.
Well, that's not true. I played the very original one, which I wasn't going to compare this to because that was terrible.
Yeah.
But the 3D, especially in Monster Hunter, is just jarring. It looks terrible, and I don't know if it's just because I'm old and have terrible eyes, or if I don't know what it is. But I guess you're not supposed to be young and using the 3D. That's why they have the fucking 2DS, right?
Right.
So, but it looks awful and it gives me a headache. Now the flip side of that is I went out and bought Pokemon Omega Ruby this weekend. Because I've got a business work trip coming up and don't want to have all the reference materials for Monster Hunter.
And you're a grown-ass man, right?
And I'm a grown-ass man, and I love my Pokemon. What can I say? And I know those two things contradict, but whatever.
It is what it is.
And the 3D in that is phenomenal, because the 3D is really only used in the battles. So it's a very isolated part of the game, and so the system's not working overtime trying to render all this stuff in 3D. And so it can do what it does best, and then when you get into the battles, everything looks phenomenal with the attacks and the Pokemon. Yeah. And I think if they'd done something similar in Monster Hunter, I'm not sure how it necessarily would have been implemented, but if they'd done something similar, it would have looked a million times better.
Well, you could do keep it off for the majority of the battles, but if you mount a monster or something, turn that into 3D, that would be kind of cool. Amplify the cutscenes a little more to make them just a little more coherent, a little step up, so when you turn the 3D on, the quality doesn't go down so far that it hurts your eyes. Something like that, I think, would work, pretty well. Or even just something simple as messing with the weapon previews and armor previews and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about this is just setting up the console from the beginning was a fucking disaster, wasn't it?
It was awful.
Really?
It was terrible. Right now, my favorite game title, my favorite application title is the system settings as a joke. Because honestly, I got in, I set it up, and I was playing along, and then suddenly, VT and I are talking on headset, and he's like, "Hey, did you set up this stuff?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I have to go back into the system settings?" And it was a nightmare. And I don't even remember. Do you remember what it was I had to go back in and set?
It was like your location settings, because you start up the 3DS. It's brand new console. You have to set up your location. You set up location. You go into Monster Hunter, and you're like, I want to download the DLC, our free weapon pack or item pack, whatever. And it was like, no, you haven't made a Nintendo ID yet. And I was like, what are you fucking kidding me? I spent like 40 minutes updating this thing, going to the store, doing all this stuff, downloaded the game and all that, and I haven't made a Nintendo ID yet. And then you get in there, you do that, and you go back into the game, you try and download again, and it was like, oh, you need to set your location settings. And I was like, I already fucking did that. What are you talking about? There was so many different things you had to do to set it all up. It was a nonsense. And not to mention the fact that it kept telling me that I needed to have a parent or legal guardian make sure that this is okay. I'm like, I'm fucking 23. Like, yeah. I bought this with my own goddamn money, and it wasn't from doing a paper route or mowing lawns or some shit. Like, this is stupid. The console to me just feels like it is made for a kid,
And it absolutely. And the thing that angers me about that is it asks you your age in the initial setup. So if it's got that verification, why is it at system level it knows that you're 23, that I'm 25, but in the game or in one of the apps it's asking for your age again or saying, oh, you're not old enough.
Yeah.
Why do you care what age I am then if you're not going to reference that information?
Right. It makes no fucking sense to me at all. That's ridiculous. But anyway, let's move away from that. Let's talk about something that actually was done moderately decently. So, Monster Hunter, your first experience. I'm a longtime vet, played in the very first original Monster Hunter, and almost pretty much I've at least dabbled in, or put hundreds and hundreds of hours into every game subsequent to that first one. So, what do you think of Monster Hunter? Like, with your first experience, you played a little bit with me, you played a little bit online, you played a little by yourself. What's your general vibe of it?
It's a lot of fun. It's definitely way more fun with people. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like, I'd go in, I'd struggle for... There were several hunts where I was either getting screwed over by monsters that were running away, and, I'd go to the next area and I'd get 2 hits on them, and then they'd run away again. And
I was there when that happened. I think you were fighting Celtis or something.
Yeah, it was Celtis.
It was like 30 minutes of him running.
Yeah, it was terrible. And it wasn't that Celtis was going to heal and sleep. It was just he's flying, and so he flies a couple areas. By the time I get there, even with him marked with a paintball, I get 2 hits on him, and he flies away again. And it was terrible. Like, that was extremely frustrating. That said, we got a 4-man group together and farmed Tetsukabra a bunch of times, and that was a blast. As a noob, and everybody knows that I'm a noob, and they're very accepting of that fact. They were fine with the fact that I was going to hang off and spend a lot of time healing.
Yeah, well, we were all there at one point.
Yeah.
And boy, were we there too. You learn something new every game you pick up. You even like the veterans pick up something new or something different they can use in help and stuff like that. And so you really don't get the whole being a noob until you've seen it in practice multiple times. You're like, oh, this guy's doing this game, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. I get why he would do that. And it's like, okay, well, maybe in the future I should help other people do that too. And so even just playing with someone who's played the game before a little bit, even one of the other earlier versions, 2 of the earlier versions, even this one, they play in Japanese one alone. They give you tips just by even just watching them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So I will say, oh, go ahead.
No, finish.
Oh, I was going to say there were a couple things that were just really disorienting, and I'm still not really used to them. I don't know if you want me to go into that because it's a short list, but I'm fairly passionate about it.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sure other people probably share your griefs.
The first thing, and you talked about this, that the designer kind of hinted at the reasoning behind this, is the fact that you have to sheath your weapon and run away from the monster you're hunting in order to use a fucking potion.
Yeah, you
everything
do.
Everything else is real time, except for that. Like, for that one action, or using items in general, that entire subset of actions, it takes 6 steps back from being an action RPG to being a turn-based strategy RPG.
Yeah, and it's very interesting play and how it really makes you think about it too. How you go about your actions. You have to plan everything out so well, otherwise you might get comboed to hell and you might die.
Yeah, and especially when you're playing alone. Like playing alone, it's frustrating.
Yeah. It is. Well, and that's part of the reason why they introduced cats back in Freedom Unite, I believe, or Portal 2nd G. That was the whole dynamic of it. And back then, cats were fucking awful. But basically, at the core, they were a distraction. They were something to take the monster's eye off of you for those 5 seconds you needed to take a potion or sharpen your weapon or something.
Well, then my next complaint is actually explain how the fuck the cats work.
Yeah,
because
I'll side with you on that one.
I have no idea. I put I actually have Monster Hunter up in front of me just so I could look and see how much time I put into it. I'm 17 hours into the game.
Oh, that's cute.
And I have no idea.
Yeah, it's
no idea how the cats work. Like there's never been anything like they've talked about them, and I know that there's a cat sitting in my house, and I could build them armor, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on with them.
Yeah, in the past they've done a lot better job with it. They walk you through different tutorials of it. They hold your hand up through, you had a maximum of 5 cats you could have or whatever in some of the past games. And one before, I think, Portable, it doesn't matter, Portable 3 had more cats, whatever. But yeah, they've instructed you, and it was a lot more obvious. Okay, well, they take them into battle. I teach them these skills. They take so long to learn these skills because they need experience, and then I make them armor, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And this one, it's very different. The way they work, we'll just get into that real quick right now, is, at least to my understanding, is you find more cats in the wild, in the cat area. There always seems to be one there. You go to the cat area in every map. Every map has one. Mm-hmm. There's a cat sitting there. You scout it. At the end of the mission, it gives you its stats. And you can choose to hire it or send it on its merry way. There are different types of cats. Right now, I've only come across 4 types. Bomb, support, treasure hunter, and healing. Oh, and attack, so 5. But from what I saw, I think there's like more than that, like maybe 10 different types of cats. But basically, it's like playing poker almost. Mm-hmm. You get 2 of the same type of cats together, 3, 4, or 5. No, 2, 4, or 5 types of the same cat together, and you activate certain skills. Now, the skills are only activated for your primary cat. So you start the game and you get the primary cat that never changes. I don't think you can ever change it. Could be wrong. And it doesn't have any really skills on it, right? Mm-hmm. But the cats you set as like your first stringers, you can pick 5 of them, like the ones that are just like whatever. Those are the types that determine what types of skills that first cat has.
Right.
So like I have 4 healer cats. So I get like a healing horn and a horn that heals my poison, and if I take those off, I only get like one of them off, and I only get the healing horn. And put like 2 attack cats on, then I get a armor or a demon horn, which boosts my attack. And so it's sort of just playing off of what cats you can find and what cats you can put in there. And none of their stats seem to matter, except for the ones you bring on the quest with you. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why the fuck we have to level them up or train them or anything. I guess in case you ever want to use them at some point in time. But yeah, there's mini games with them too that you can send on missions and stuff. It's crazy. They're useful, but yeah, they definitely could have went into depth a little bit more with it.
Yeah, it was definitely jarring hearing Dagger talk about how she's using them all the time. Given by the time we were playing with Dagger, like she had put for those watching Dagger, somebody we were playing with on Friday night in that group before, she'd put considerably more hours into it than either of us at that point.
Yeah, she still has.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
So yeah, props to you, Dagger, if you're listening.
She is.
Yeah. So it was definitely it was like, wow, you're using these cats and you're using them effectively. Yeah. Where do I learn how to do that?
Yeah, I will admit though that
tell me
that is one thing though. Is in this game the cats are actually useful. In past games they've tried to improve upon them. Unite, they were fucking awful. They were terrible. All they did was you couldn't set up what type of cats they were. All their attacks and everything. All they did was bomb the hell out of you. Portable 3rd, you could determine what type of cats were: big monster, small monster, attack, bombs, trap, whatever. You could hire them that type. And this one you can pick exactly what happens. And they actually, like, as soon as I get knocked the shit out of me, like if I'm in a combo, my cat starts playing a horn to heal me, like reliably, and I'm like, holy shit,
awesome.
Like, if I get poisoned before the poison even takes like 3 or 4 notches off my health, I'm healed because it uses a detox horn. I'm like, this is the way the cat should work. Definitely. Yeah. It's a handicap and a crutch, but it's the way they should work.
Mm-hmm. For sure. and I need to figure out how to implement that handicap on my own.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. You can trade cats too without losing them yourself. So you can work with cats with other people and stuff.
Perfect.
But so let's get back a little bit to your starting of your Monster Hunter career, and trust me, it is a career.
Oh, I've understood.
So we kind of already went into this a little bit, but there's definitely a learning curve or a skill level to this, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is this is for somebody that wants to play with us, but doesn't play. Chocobos, if you're listening, yes, there's grinding involved. There's a lot of grinding involved in Monster Hunter. So,
but that's the whole point of it. It
is. Before
this game, there's never really been any story. It's always been kill monster, make weapon. Use weapon to kill new monster to make new weapon. Repeat. Right.
And I like that they've kind of wrapped a story around it. I don't really understand the context of said story other than as a way to facilitate introducing you to the different areas and the different parts of the game.
Pretty much.
I kind of appreciated it though. But definitely wrapping your head around the fact that it is a grinding-driven game. It's a loot-driven game
there you go.
The most hardcore way.
Yeah, you really have to want to get the best of the best stuff across the board, which is something we kind of took from Destiny too. Like you both of us have that desire to get all the weapons,
Yeah, and so it's definitely something that. You knowing me and you knowing how many hours I've put into Destiny, just trying to get those last couple pieces of loot. In fact, just prior to this, I was playing Iron Banner in Destiny, so
trying to get that loot.
Still, trying to get that loot. At the same time, I can definitely see. I will not approach the amount of hours that you or Dagger or RPG or the others will put into the.
Here's a hint for the very first game alone, Monster Hunter, the first one I played in high school. Well over 300 hours into the one game, well over it, and the other ones are, collectively past that.
Yeah.
So, it's bad, but good, but bad.
Well, one of the guys at my GameStop was telling me he hasn't decided if he's actually gonna. He has a new 3DS. He has Monster Hunter. Doesn't know if he's actually going to start it up, though, because the last Monster Hunter game he played, he put 600 hours into.
Yeah, I believe it. Absolutely.
So,
and that's why I haven't, when you told me about the 3D with Pokemon, I was like, that sounds so fucking awesome. I love Pokemon, but, do I really have time for that? Probably not, because if I'm going to pick any game over Monster Hunter, it's going to be a new Monster Hunter game. So, eventually I'll get there.
I'll get there.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite weapon class yet?
Right now, my two favorite weapon classes are the Twin Swords, and the Sword and Shield.
Okay, you like the mobility of those classes?
Yeah, I mean, you know the way I play games in general. I like being a little bit more mobile in the way I move. I don't necessarily care about doing high levels of damage as long as I can move around and put the damage on people. And so those really appeal to me. That said, when you're by yourself, those don't necessarily work as well because you're not putting out the high levels of damage, or you have a very short reach. So,
right, each class is sort of balanced its own way, and it's funny you say that because I always used to go through solo using dual swords because of their mobility and all that. And if you use them, you learn how to use the class effectively. Like with that one specifically, it's very good for evading, getting out of the way. So you can get a lot of those attacks. You make up for that low damage with getting a lot of attacks in per minute because you can just dodge attack. Whereas other weapons, you dodge, run around a little bit, get another hit in, etc.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and you've tried out quite a few of the weapons already, haven't you?
There's I can't remember them. There's the
great sword, long sword.
Great sword and long sword. I've tried those. Tried hunting horn. God, is there a learning curve to the hunting horn?
Yeah, there is. It's one of those tough ones.
And I completely understand because you told me going into this that might be a weapon for me because I'm also a big support player. And I can definitely see that. But holy crap, is there a learning curve? And with a lot of the weapons, you can kind of go through the one tutorial quest, the tutorial hunt that they give you in Tier 1, to kind of learn the basics of that weapon. Hunting horn, you're going to have to do more than once if you're new to the game.
Yeah, there's so much outside of that. And building off of that, I got into the charge blade, which I really enjoy. Actually, I was very surprised by it. But the same thing, like you go through that tutorial mission once, like you don't grasp half the stuff that you could utilize for that. You know, like there's when you switch weapons, there's a block that happens in the middle of there. There's different charge levels that affect how much damage you do at a certain point, and how you can put that charge in the axe or in the sword.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of craziness going on. And I've just started to get good at that. Actually, I soloed the village Shigaru Magala, whatever the fuck his name is, the Gold Gore Magala, and used the charge blade, and it was tough because I wasn't used to it, but I did beat it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to use that, is to challenge myself even more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting when you find a weapon you like, you sit with it for a little while, and then you kind of branch out again. You got to almost relearn the whole game because you play differently with each weapon.
Absolutely.
And that's something people need to realize too. Is like, I know my brother, he got really frustrated when he first started playing Monster Hunter because he was like bowgun, and well, some of the quests, bowgun's great. Some of them not really. The monsters are really good at long range. Something like that. So you got to switch it up. And he almost dropped the game for like a whole week, 2 weeks, because he just couldn't figure out how to use greatsword or a hammer. Mm-hmm. And he was like, it's so much harder. He kept dying all the time. I was like, well, yeah, you gotta. You have to learn the different ranges, what the monster does, learn all the attacks. All sorts of stuff goes into it, which is part of the reason that I feel like this game appeals to a lot of people, is because I've said this for years and years. You can have the best armor, best equipment, whatever in the game, you can still get your ass handed to you,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a very skill-based game.
And talking about weapons, like, you challenged yourself with the charge sword. The charge sword's on my list of things to try next and to try and get a handle on, as well as ranged weapons, because that's definitely something that we ran into in over the weekend when we had 4 of us running. We were all running melee of various, whether it was twin swords or hammers or hunting horns or longsword, great swords. We were all melee, and we didn't really have the ranged attacks. And there were a couple times where we desperately needed ranged attacks to either help us complete the hunt or tackle that optional objective. Of smashing a horn or knocking off a horn,
breaking their back or something.
Yeah,
and that's a very good point. You have to. Monster Hunter, I always try and play it up as a big cooperative game, but really at the end of the day, it's really not that cooperative. Like Evolve, that is cooperative play when you're with 4 people. Like that is, you have to work together. Monster Hunter is, you kind of work together. You're there together. You're throwing a pit together, but you all kind of attack. You don't really coordinate a lot of stuff. There's a few things you do, of course, in this new one, but really you're all just trying to beat the shit out of the monster at the same time, right?
Right.
But still though, there's small little objectives in there that it pays to have just a little bit of organization to. And that's where those, the different weapon types come in there, with the hunting horn being a support, or like you said, with the long range, like a bow with its mortar attack coming down from above to break it back. It's interesting. The problem with long range, though, is at the start of the game, you are broke as shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at the end of the game, you're broke as shit. And pretty much the whole game, you're broke as shit because you're just spending money upgrading stuff and buying new things. And, bullets cost money and materials and stuff. And so it's hard to get going into. And that's why I usually like, when I start with long range, because, you have to make an whole separate armor set for your gunner.
Yeah,
and
that's the one reason I haven't done it yet, is because I have to create a whole new armor set for my gunner.
Yeah, and at the start of the game, it's just not worth spending those materials, those resources, money, whatever it is, on top of the ammo. And so I usually like to start with bow, because there's no ammo needed. You can buy the files. You don't have to craft them. You can craft them if you want, but you can buy literally every file you have at your disposal. And it's just a lot more money conscious, for sure. So it's something to keep in mind. Especially with the additions they added with the bow, too. There's a few new attacks in there that make it a lot more desirable.
The other thing is and I don't know if this is worthwhile or not, but at the beginning of every quest, they give you your supply box. And in the supply box, isn't there ammo of some sort?
There's a few ammo. There's normal S and usually a pellet and an element and a file for a bow. The thing about that is, and you probably don't know this yet, that supply box is only there for low-rank quests.
Okay.
So,
I've been grabbing it. I've been grabbing anything that's there that you guys don't grab if it's co-op, or anything that I have room for in my
Oh
pack
yeah, and stocking up on it.
and stocking up on it. So I've got, I'm maxed out on a lot of those ammo types that they give you in the supply box just because through my farming I've been grabbing it all.
Yeah,
So I mean that's
I've been doing that as
strat.
well. It's a good way to build up a lot of the basic stuff for sure. Especially the element shots, because those are the element shots for gunners is just immensely effective. Really, high damage output. Especially if you get an element attack upset or something with a rapid fire. It's insanely really underappreciated sometimes. I do have a video on my YouTube from Monster Hunter Portal 3rd where 3 of us are gunning. And we managed to kill 3 monsters in under 6 minutes, I think it was, on high rank. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, just insanely quick. Absolutely. So just one more question for you, pretty much, because you sort of answered how much time you're going to put into this game, which it sounds like you're planning on putting in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The weapons and armors are pretty much the core focus of the game. What do you... I mean, in any sort of game, you look for sort of something that outstands. Do you think these weapons and armors are something that really make you want to make more of them? Like the look, the effectiveness, stuff like that?
Yeah, I do. I think the modeling on the armor sets and the weapons is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I think regardless of the graphics and how terrible they look at times,
right.
The physical models and the way that they've been colored and shaded and just designed overall, they look phenomenal. There's I think it's the Narcilla sword and shield.
Mm-hmm.
Narcilla sword and shield look phenomenal. It's an absolutely gorgeous set of weaponry. Right now, the only armor that I have is the Tetsukabra set.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, well, you know how it is.
Right.
But that looks phenomenal. So I can't wait to, start figuring out what the next set of armor is that I want to get, what the next weapon is I want to get, and start working towards those. And I think honestly, that's one of the reasons I put the game down. Is I need to get with you and figure out the links to some of these resources that you've been talking about.
Oh yeah. I found a bunch of them, and I'll include some of those in the links in this video or in the comments of this video as well. There's a site that I found that's extremely helpful. Lays out a lot of weapon trees, everything, a lot of information on monsters, all that sorts of stuff, and it just popped up out of nowhere. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things I love about this is as all the armor and weapons look, they're all very individual. They all look phenomenal, despite the graphics, like you said. And the biggest thing I think, and I think you'll like this as well, is the skills that the armors present. Because I always go for form or function over form. I think is what it's called. What they did in Far Cry 4. Yeah. And so, I'll pick the best skills out of something that looks good. And so you can have, a dual sword set that gives you sharp sword so it lasts longer. Sharpness +1. So you get, instead of green it might be blue, or instead of white it might be purple. And then quick sharpen and like an evade. So you're just like a dual sword machine. And all sorts of stuff. And so looking for armors like that really, take the game to the next level, something that really interests me, and that's something that really prolonged my interest in Monster Hunter. I think it's something you're really going to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's going to laugh at me when I say this, but I did something with Destiny. I put together a spreadsheet of all the high-level equipment that I had and what I was looking to get. And I had a plan, as much as you can have one when you're subjected to random numbers, of how I was going to go about getting those. And the same thing goes for what I want to do with Monster Hunter. Not necessarily, putting together a spreadsheet, but I want to have a game plan of, okay, this is the high-level gear at the very end, not necessarily end game, but, these are the pieces of gear that I want towards the end.
Yeah.
Now, what are going to be my stopovers on my way to that? What am I going to craft and get that'll provide me enough armor and enough damage to get me to the next step, and kind of work backward from where I eventually want to be. And so, you've talked about those resources, and I think it's my fault, really, for not getting them from you sooner. But I think for anybody new that's listening or new that's watching, or even if you're just coming back to the franchise, it's huge. Find those resources for the loot and the gear, and bookmark them, have them on your phone at all times, have them next to you while you're playing so that you have that reference with you.
Yeah, definitely.
So you know what's going on.
Yeah, you really need, and in this game, the resources are so precious, you really need to plan out what you're doing next, You need to verify that, okay, I'm making this Thunder Lance. Is this the best one I can make right now? Should I make this one as sort of sideway and sort of save other parts for this weapon, or what? How far do I take this?
Or, I really want a Thunder Lance, but this one's not that good. Maybe I hold off on this for right now.
Right, or maybe it gets amazing,
Yeah.
And I want to start it, so at least I have it set up, you definitely want to be able to plan ahead. And that kind of takes me to the next part of just sort of how you start off Monster Hunter for those new people maybe returning, what should you do at the start of this one? Because it is a little different than past ones, there's a story to it, which actually it's like you said, it introduces new areas of monsters. It does a decent job of what it's supposed to do. Not gripping, but it gets the job done better than it has in the past, that's for sure. And so I just beat the main story today, unlocked high rank for village quests. So I beat the Shigaru, Magala. I don't know what the fuck his name is, the gold thing.
Either way, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, it was all right. And so unlocked a bunch of stuff. But really, I found it interesting because in the past, the village quests you can go through really quickly just by doing urgent stuff. But this one actually takes a little while. It makes you do certain quests to unlock these quests, to unlock other quests, and doing all these quests together pretty much collectively, almost none of them are left out of the fact that they all unlock something for you offline. They all unlock, better food to eat, more cats, something like that. So you really have to do a lot of it. So the village is something you want to focus on right away. You really want to not worry about online like at all. And the only bad thing that's going to happen there is you're just going to be over-prepared when you go to the guild hall. So the way I did this was up to, again, the high rank for the village. I only made 2 armor sets. I made the Quechawaka and the Nagala armor set, or whatever, the snake thing, which is awesome. Like that guy. Fighting him is weird, but I like the creativity with him.
Was that the green snake that we fought?
Yeah, it was.
Or tried to fight?
Najarala, that's his name. Najarala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun fight.
So yeah, I made those 2 armor sets, which carried me all the way up to Shigar, and I upgraded the Najarala set 1 whole row of armor spheres, just because I had like 100 of them. So the defense by that point was, I had so much defense compared to everything I was fighting, it was almost unnecessary, and that's after only 1 upgrade. So you really don't need a whole lot to get through it. Even the Tetsukabra probably, with 1 or 2, 3 upgrades minimum, or maximum, would probably get you there. Which means a lot of the weapons you can start making, you get the base down, a really large category there, so you can really start getting a lot of your bases to take into online. Really, by the time you beat him, Shigaru, then you're probably ready to go online and tackle all that, which is kind of nice. You get a nice setup, and it's all very necessary. And by the time you get there, then you're pretty much good to go. You're way overqualified. So I definitely recommend doing as much village as possible from the start. Really getting a feel of the game, especially with the new mechanics like mounting. Mounting's really interesting in this. I thought I was going to be really against it, because I saw the trailer videos for Monster Hunter 4, E3 or not E3, Nintendo's conference or whatever, and I was like, man, that just looks so choppy. Like it doesn't really look good. Like part of it was kind of held back by the graphics, but after getting a feel of it, it's actually a really nice strategy. For those of you who don't know, you can mount monsters because there's 3-dimensional fighting, which is actually, it works. It could still use improvement. I'm not going to get super into it because it varies by monster, but overall, I'm living with it. So you can jump on monsters' backs at a certain time. If it plays out, there's a chance of it working. Jump on their back, and you can stab at them or hold on to them to endure an attack or a roar or something and stay stable. So there's a meter that fills up. If the blue gets all the way to the end, the monster falls down. It sometimes drops a shiny, and you guys get a good 10 seconds to attack it. If the meter fills up with red and the monster eats your blue, then you get kicked off, and the monster still goes on a rampage. And he's probably more pissed off than he was before. Yeah. Also, if players attack the monster while you're on top, you'll get thrown off halfway through regardless, which is a big deal. But when we were fighting Gor Magala, and I was going to tell you this later, or earlier, we were doing that urgent online, right, to get to HR3. One of the strategies I realized that we could do for that is when he gets enraged, he starts to get, he does more damage, he's faster and all that. But if someone jumps on his back, he falls over, then all of a sudden he has an open head available to get attacked to get him out of enrage really easily.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, even that the one time he falls over, you can knock him out of enragement really quickly. And because all the stages are devised for that 3D play, or 3 dimensions play, and also 3D because it's 3DS, you can play that to your advantage, which is a whole new level of intricity for Monster Hunters, using the environment and using that one simple addition to really kind of put the monster in your pocket and play it how you want it out, which I really like, and I like it a lot more than I thought I would.
I mean, that said, though, there are those monsters like Celtis and the flying monsters where mounting is next to impossible.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very difficult. Absolutely.
And, I think that was one of the reasons why we talked about how, I just got screwed by Celtis and was running up against the clock and finally got him. Was because I couldn't really get he wasn't in an area where I could get enough height to, do a jump attack in order to mount him. And so I'm stuck fighting this flying thing from the ground. So that's definitely something to be conscious of. Do the research to know the monster.
Yeah, absolutely, and that goes back to, again, some weapons work better for monsters than other. Like dual swords. You and I both did that. We brought dual swords to Celtis first, and that was kind of rough because the things have no height. They have no height. It was a mess.
That was a mess. I switched to a longsword in order to actually do it. Fortunately, I had saved and it was like, okay, I'll give Celtis a shot, and then I'll go to bed. And I saw that Celtis was flying, and that I had short little stubby twin swords, and said, fuck this. I'm going to shut it down, load up that save, and I'll do a twin sword starting tomorrow.
Yeah, gonna go back and get something bigger. Absolutely. Yeah, and so that's something, if you're starting a Monster Hunter, you guys got to be conscious about that. Sometimes you might love the lance or something, but if something's moving around a lot, lance isn't very mobile, you might have to branch out to a different weapon. You might have to try something new. And that's what Monster Hunter really is all about. It's about, branching out a little bit to be better than the monster in every way. Have every advantage stacked against you. Because at the end, you're still facing this big fuck-off thing that can blow fire at you. And what do you have, a stick?
Yeah.
Like, come on. They give you 50 minutes in a quest for a reason. Sometimes you just get fucked over. And sometimes you need to prepare better.
Yep.
So that's what it is. So we're pretty much out of time. I think that covers it pretty much for starting off Monster Hunter. Next week, I'm hoping to have another guest in here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the next step, what you do after you kind of get done with the village. How do you go about handling the huge amount of armor and weapons that you have at your disposal and what you want to make. So how do you go about doing that? So next week I'll have that. But we're going to end this show in the next few minutes. So how do you want to end it? We can end it with an awkward semi-silence.
I don't know.
A pretend argument. Or you can answer a trivia question, and the trivia question can be about anything.
Ooh, that's a rough one. Well, I don't even know what we would argue about.
I mean, we could argue about how fucking incompetent you are at picking a goddamn thing to answer the thing at.
What?
Yeah.
You motherfucker.
You just gotta pick one. Just
no.
Pick one, you stupid son of a bitch.
No.
I swear to God, I will never have you on the show again.
I will slap you so hard the next... Actually, you know what? I'm not bringing you vodka next time I see you.
You son of a bitch. That is delicious vodka. I will kill for that.
I know you will.
I swear to God. Oh, I'm going to drive down there right now. Drive down there right now, and I'm going to bring my cats and have them maul your face.
I'll just have to finish the vodka I've got in the meantime, and you won't know where to get it.
You might have to save some of that for the scratches.
True.
Yeah.
No, it's too good. I'm not putting that. I'm only drinking that vodka. It is too good.
No, it's not worth it. I'll lose my leg. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
We're gonna hit up some hunting the next few days. All right, we'll get that all situated.
Sounds good.
Thanks for watching, guys. Again, all the links will be in the comments for the database site I found. I have a few tools as well you can play on your phone, a little mobile friendly. They're just pictures, so check that out. And also, if you haven't seen my unboxing video for the Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate new 3DS XL bundle, holy shit, that's a mouthful. You can check that out as well. It's pretty short, so drop me a little comment or something.
So,
and it's got a cat in it. Spoiler alert. So if you like cats, check it out.
Watch the video.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy, guys. Thanks again.